If you're buying a home, you not only have to save for a down payment unless you're using a zero down mortgage option, but you also are going to have closing costs. And you're going to have closing costs regardless of if you do a zero down loan or you actually have a down payment. Okay, so I want to break down for you what buyer closing costs are and also talk about selling closing costs as well. So on the seller side, sellers pay excise taxes like a sales tax on real estate. Sellers also pay all real estate commissions. So you don't pay us any commission for us to represent you as a buyer. The seller pays that. They pay both the buyer agent and the listing agent because there's two agents involved in every real estate transaction. They're going to pay half of the escrow fee as well. An escrow company is like a neutral third party that moves all the money around and actually records the transaction at the courthouse, making you the legal new owner of this house. And so you're going to pay half of that escrow fee. The seller is going to pay the other half. It's just split in half. The seller is also going to pay an owner's title insurance policy. That's required in Washington state to sell a property, and it protects you as a buyer from things like defects on title, like say a lien, for instance, or maybe an easement or something that was not disclosed. So title insurance is super important. The seller has to pay for that as well. Okay, so that's the bulk of the seller's closing costs. Seller's closing costs are typically 7.5% to 8.5%. Pretty dang high, right? On the buy side, it's not nearly as high. That's the good news. So typically I see buyers closing costs between 1.5% to 2%, depending on which lender you're using and also which loan program you're going to use as well. But here's kind of what to expect there. The first thing is lender related fees, and that's going to include things like credit reporting fees, prepaid interest, prepaid taxes, credit origination fees, the appraisal fee. All of those things are wrapped into what I just call lender fees. Okay. The second thing, like I said earlier, you're going to pay half of the escrow fee. That is on you to pay. It's typically $1,200 to $1,500. Just totally depends on the price of the house and which escrow company has chosen on that particular transaction. Okay. And then you're also going to have a lender's title insurance policy, something that's very important to know about. Your lender's going to require that you pay for that. Fortunately, it's not nearly as expensive as the owner's title insurance policy that the seller pays for. But that's about what you can expect for your closing costs. When the market is softer and it's easier to negotiate things, like we're not having to escalate above list price to get a home. You can sometimes get a seller to give you what's called a concession, where they give you a certain amount of dollars to give you a credit for your closing costs as well. This is just totally market dependent on whether that's realistic or not. If the market is really competitive, it's absolutely not going to happen. But if there's a lot of inventory, homes are sitting for a while, it may benefit you as a buyer to ask for closing cost credits versus dollars off, because it could keep a lot of cash in your bank account. Okay, if you've got questions about closing costs, use the form below. Reach out to me today. Let's talk about it, okay?